Hey, what's up? It's Tony from Street Church Ministries. Welcome to the Inside Job podcast. Thanks for hopping on board. Week 4 of our series called Lessons from the Least of These. We're going to put an exclamation point on this sucker today. We're going to end it with a bang. I hope that this series has been a blessing to you guys, that in some way, shape, or form it has, knit God's heart inside of us. And yeah, I do say us because nobody needs to hear these things more than yours truly. So we're going to talk about 2 separate themes here today, and I think they're super important. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time or my time. So if you have a Bible, open up to Matthew chapter 25. We'll read a few verses and then we'll chat about them. Okay? So I'm going to begin in verse number 34 in Matthew 25. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" The king will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Then he will say to those on his left, "Depart from me, you who are cursed, into eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink." I'll end right there. So I love the response of the people who were doing something, right? Who were meeting people's needs. Who Jesus said, "I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink." And they said, "Lord, when did we ever give you something to eat or drink?" Right? It's so cool. It's like they were unaware that they were even doing something good. They were certainly unaware that they were giving Jesus, in a sense, something to eat and drink. They were unaware of what they were doing. They're like, "Lord, when did we ever do this? When did we ever see you going hungry? We were just doing what we were supposed to do," right? And it's like, that's what the life is, right? Like, it's like when we are living in a way that we were created to live like, when we are just being the people that we were created to be, we're unaware that we're even doing it, right? So in John chapter 7, I believe Jesus said, "Whoever believes in me, from his innermost being will flow rivers of living water." Will flow rivers of living water, right? It's like if you go to a river, and if you go, on a nice Saturday afternoon, if you go to a lake, you'll see the currents, on the lake, right? And the water is flowing, right? It's not a well that you have to pump up. So it's the same thing here, right? The things that we do for the Lord, and the kindness that we show, and the way that we meet people's needs and want to love people and bless people, we never pump it up, right? It's not a well. It's within us. It's a river that is within us, and it should flow out from us naturally, right? It should be organic. It should be natural. It's never contrived. It's not a well that we have to pump up, right? I love that response, Sometimes I get caught up into, because, I am a professional Christian after all. I mean, I actually get paid for this, right? I pay my gas and electric bill this way. And there's a danger in that, right? Like, there's a danger in sort of feeling like I have to do these things, right? It's part of my job. It's part of my income, right? I have to check certain boxes. And that's a dangerous place, because when you do that, this whole life of sort of meeting people's needs and visiting people and loving people and feeding people and clothing people, it could be a well that you feel like you have to pump up. And that's a dangerous place, right? It should be this organic river that flows out from within us, right? Solely because God has changed our lives and is in the process of changing our hearts, right? So that's the first thing. It's the first point. The second thing, so in John chapter 15, there's a verse that I've always wrestled with. I struggle with it, even to this day, right? John, I think 15:5, it says, it's when Jesus says, apart from me, you can do nothing. And the truth is this: I know a lot of people who are living apart from, Christ, who really don't give a hoot about him, who don't believe in him, who don't follow him, who are like, whatever, man, if you want to do Jesus, fine, but it's not for me. And they do lots of good things, right? I know they do lots of good things. I'm friends with them. And then I know lots of people who say that they are in Christ and they follow Christ and they act like a bunch of knuckleheads. But we all do, right? That's besides the point. But the point I'm getting at is Jesus specifically, emphatically says, apart from me, you can do nothing. And the same word is used here in this text, right? It's when Jesus, he's with those people who are not doing anything, and he says, and he tells them these horrible words. He says, where is it? Then he will say to those on his left, depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. And it's like Jesus is saying, the only choice that we have is we can do something or we can do nothing. But how can you do nothing, right? That sounds like a paradox, right? You can't do nothing. Nothing is not something that you do. Yes, it is, right? When we are not connected to Christ, right? We become apathetic. We become self-centered. And all of those, attributes, apathy, laziness, and selfishness and self-centeredness cause us to do nothing. And I love the way that he contrasts in this whole text the two things that are within our power. Like there are lots of things that are outside of our control. Like I can walk out, I can get in my car, and I pray that this doesn't happen because I love my family. But I can get into a car accident and I can die in a half hour, right? Or I could go to the doctor for, a checkup and find out that, I have cancer. Or I could lose my job or whatever. Like most things are completely outside of our control, right? The one thing that's inside of our control is this: we have the autonomy to choose whether we will do something or whether we will do nothing, right? Nothing. And the only thing at the end of the day that is within our total control all the time, and whether or not we're aware of it or not, it is. The only thing that's in our total control is our attitude. And you might not think it is, right? Because you're like, Tone, you have no idea what kind of life I had or what kind of day I had or what kind of blank sandwich I'm in. No. We have the ability to control our attitude. And if we control our attitude, we can, therefore, we have it, in our power either to see a need and to do something or to do nothing. And that's the choice, right? It's clear. And yeah, and and just look at the consequences for simply doing nothing, for turning your head, for ignoring a need, for just living a life where that just revolves around you. And listen, anybody, I don't care how rich they are, I don't care how powerful they are, the most miserable people in the world, regardless of what they have, the most miserable people in the world are those whose lives revolve around themselves, right? And anybody whose life revolves around them is a person who is in the camp of seeing a need and having the ability to meet it and doing nothing. And look at the consequences, right? Look at the consequences. I mean, like, you would think that you would have to do something really bad, like horribly evil, to experience this kind of a consequence here that Jesus says. He says this. He says, "Depart from me, you who are cursed, into eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry and you gave me nothing. I was thirsty and you gave me nothing." It's like you think the consequence, we naturally think that the consequence for eternal fire, and to live in a place where Satan is going to live, and to be damned to eternal destruction. Like, we naturally think that we would need to do something really evil to obtain that. But Jesus says, when you do nothing, when you live a life of doing nothing, then that's what you inherit. And that's what the text says. That's pretty scary stuff, right? That's pretty scary stuff. So listen, I love how Jesus identifies with not only people who are hungry and thirsty and people who are in need, but he identifies with the hungriest of the hungry, the thirstiest of the thirsty, the neediest of the needy, the least of those. The least of those, right? So, listen, I hope that this series has been a blessing to you. I hope that I just hope that you take one pearl and put it in your back pocket and allow it to change your heart and how you view other people. Because listen, regardless of whether or not you have money, or you are going through depression or anxiety or not, right? We all have it within our power in some way, shape, or form to see a need and to do something. Listen, have a great day, and we have something really cool coming up. We, have a new series that we are shaping and molding and doing right now, and we know it's going to be a blessing to you guys. So until then, have a great day.